Okay. All right. And so now Philemon, you're going to find in the New Covenant, just before the book of Hebrews. All right. And just after Titus. 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, Philemon, and then Hebrews. All right, we all got it, and hopefully Brian's got it too. Okay, there we go. Okay. So, now Philemon is not a matter of, doesn't have chapters because it's just one chapter. And it has, 25 verses that we're going to get into. So, it's written about the year 61 CE, 61 of the Common Era. And it's written by the Apostle Paul, a shaliach. That means sent one. By the shaliach, Shaul. And like Ephesians and Philippians and Colossians, it was written while he was in prison. Interestingly enough, we all visualize prison as being a jail and with bars on it and so on and so forth. But actually, Paul's imprisonment was in a house. He was confined to a house. That was his imprisonment. So it wasn't a situation with bars, but he couldn't leave. But a lot of people could come and visit him. Okay? And so that might have seemed like a terrible circumstance, but it was an opportunity for him to do major work. He didn't have to go out and make tents. He didn't have to do a lot of stuff. His meals were provided for him, and he just didn't have to do anything. He was free to minister all he wanted. Reminds me of Merv Davis, who's off there in the Metropolitan Detention Center. I speak of him sometimes, and we keep in touch with Merv. And Loretta, his wife and bride, is here every week worshiping the Lord. And but we keep in touch with him other than through Loretta, and it's a blessing to him. I'm sure if any of you want to write to him and so on. But Merv, he's an attorney. I just learned this week that he also has a PhD. That's amazing. And so here's this guy, and he finds himself in this odd situation of being persecuted and prosecuted and in jail. Not in prison, he's in jail. That's like 30 days, 60 days. He's been there 2 years. Trying to get a hearing so he can get sentenced. Can you picture? You'd think they'd let him out on bail, but no. So you say, well, this is an odd thing. What's he doing there? Well, it turns out because he's an attorney, a lot of people came to him for advice, legal advice, and which he, gladly dispensed and so on. And then, they came telling him their problems and so on and so forth. So he began to minister to them out of the scriptures, and they found this very interesting. So after a while, he decided instead of doing this one by one, let's all get together one time. And so he began to speak to them out of the scriptures. Well, it turned out that this was going to get to be an everyday thing. It's now 6 days a week, an hour at a time, and there's 27 people who get together for a good hour at a time to listen to Merv teach from the scriptures. Is that something? So jail can be of the Lord's design. Now, interestingly enough, Merv's bearing fruit. He's got, in recent months, he's led 12 people to the Lord. Wow. Huh? How many pastors can say that during the last year they've led 12 people to the Lord? Well, they're in very confined quarters, and it only holds 20 stools. So they now come with their stools to listen to Merv. So although none of us have, other than Loretta, have ever met Merv, he's very much a part of this congregation, and his ministry is on our website. So, we have an understanding that being in jail is not necessarily an adversity that wasn't designed by the Lord. But we nevertheless hope that he can minister from outside the jail as soon as possible. So here's Paul. He's in prison, and he writes this letter to Philemon. And he the subject is that there is it concerns Onesimus. Let's find out what's going on here with Philemon and Onesimus. This is to begin with verses 1 through 3. Paul, a prisoner of Yeshua HaMashiach, and Timothy, our brother, unto Philemon, our dearly beloved and fellow laborer, who lives in Colossia and has a home ministry. Paul never actually visited that ministry, but he kept in regular touch through correspondence by mail. By the way, we can keep in correspondence with Merv through the mail. Verse 2, and our beloved fellow soldiers and the church in your house. So home congregations were very much in vogue, and a lot of these congregations that changed the world were very small groups of people that met in homes. And they were not 3,000 and 4,000 foot homes. These were small homes, probably of poor people. So these small congregations, we don't know how large they are. We don't know if there were 10 people, 20 people, 30 people. We don't know. There may have been 100 people. We just don't know. But home ministry was something that produced and actually changed the world. Small groups of people, highly committed, changed the world. Grace unto you and peace from our God and our Father and the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach. So, you know, Paul gives his title and greetings and so on and so forth. And in verses 4 through 7, he begins to give thanks and praise for Philemon. He says, I thank my God and mention you always in my prayers, hearing of your love and faith which you have towards the Lord and towards all of the believers, that the communication of your faith may become effectual by the acknowledging of every good thing which is in you and in Messiah Yeshua. For we have great joy and consolation in your love, because the bowels of the saints, that's our innermost being, are refreshed by thee, O brother. So it's possible for us to be a refreshment to other people in the body. So he's speaking highly of Philemon and saying, hey buddy, you know, you're the greatest. All right, we go on with verses 8 through 12, and we begin to find out something more about the plot of what's really going on here and the necessity for the letter. Wherefore I might be so bold in Messiah as to enjoin you that which is convenient. Yet for love's sake I instead beseech you, being as one of Paul the aged, and now also a prisoner of Yeshua HaMashiach. It's thought that Paul is approximately 61 years old at this time. I beseech you for my son Onesimus, whom I have begotten in my bonds. So now comes the reason for the correspondence, is that Paul is writing to Philemon about Onesimus, who was begotten by Paul. So Paul had led Onesimus to the Lord, and he's writing to Philemon about him, and he says, which in times past was thee unprofitable, but now profitable to you and to me, whom I have sent again to you. Therefore receive him, that which is of my own heart. So he's saying, it used to be that Onesimus was an unprofitable servant, but he's become profitable, and profitable to me, and also profitable to you. And so, I'm urging you to receive him again. Now we're getting down to it. Verses 13 through 16, it says, whom I would retain with me. In other words, I'd keep him with me, that instead he might have ministered unto me in the bonds of my gospel. So it'd really be great for him to stay in my ministry. I want people in my ministry. I mean, I need helpers and so on. But verse 14 says, but without thy mind would I wouldn't do such a thing. That benefit should not be, as it were, of necessity, but willingly. So I give him back to you willingly. For perhaps he therefore departed for a season, that thou shouldest receive him forever. So, all right, Onesimus left Philemon, came upon Paul, became a believer, joined the ministry with Paul, and now Paul is sending him back. Wonder why. Verse 16, not now as a servant, but above a servant. He used to be your slave, but now he's going to be above a slave. He's actually, regard him more highly. A brother, beloved, especially to me. But how much more unto you, both in the flesh and in the Lord. So although when he left you, he was your slave, we got something new happening here. Verse 17. But thou count me therefore a partner, receive him as myself. If he had wronged thee or owed thee aught, put that on my account. Now it comes to light as to why the letter was written. Apparently, what took place was Onesimus was a slave to Philemon, and he escapes. He leaves. He runs. And he took some money. So he was a thief, a slave and a thief on the run, comes in contact with the Apostle Paul, gets saved. Paul says, look, if he's wronged you in this way, when he owes you money, put that on my account. I'm willing to pay. Verse 19, I, Paul, have written it with my own hand. I will repay it. Albeit I do not say to thee how thou owest unto me even thine own. So Paul is saying, he's saying, I led you to the Lord, others in your household to the Lord, and so actually, you kind of owe me. But I'm really not, it's okay. But just receive him back, as your servant again. And about the stolen money, okay, charge it to my account. I'll pay it. Okay. But he's really turned out to be a joy to me, and I know he will be a joy to you. Yea, brother, let me have joy to thee in the Lord. Refresh my bowels of the Lord, and so on. So he's saying, that's an archaic way of saying, if you'll do this and you'll receive him back, okay, as a brother in the Lord, it would bless me. So now we have this story of the runaway slave who stole money, who became a believer, and now Paul, who led him to the Lord, says, look, maybe it'd be better to go back and do the right thing. Now, Paul, he has an expanding ministry. And it would be more usual to say, well, great, Onesimus, you're here. All things past are gone. It's all under the blood. And have you ever heard that before? It's all under the blood. And it's true, it is all under the blood, but nevertheless, Paul says, it'd be really great to have you here, but I just don't know what kind of good fruit's going to come from your staying here when actually you kind of didn't do the right thing, but I can't go back. Do you realize you could have me killed? Runaway slaves were worthy of death, and there was precedent. In other words, if Philemon wouldn't execute a runaway slave, that was not good for the community, because there were many slaves, and if he didn't take action, then other slaves would say, hey, we can just run away, we can steal and we can just run away. So there was a duty to the community to see to it that there was the ultimate penalty for running away. People should fear to run away. They weren't in chains. It's just if you ran away and you got caught, you were pretty much a dead man. So he's within his rights within the community to kill a runaway slave. Nobody would have thought that Philemon was a bad guy for doing it. Those were the rules, the understood rules of the community and law. But instead, Paul says, look, let's try this a different way. By grace. Think about this, Philemon. you know, you were not always a believer. And when you became a believer, you know, think about all the things that you did that were not too kosher and that you actually regret. And you know what? God let you into the kingdom anyhow. And so you were kind of a rebel yourself, and you were kind of a runaway slave yourself. And but yet there was grace afforded to you. Unmerited favor was afforded to you, and you were allowed to come back to God. So in a way, isn't this the same thing? That, you know, can you see your way clear that since God gave you grace, that you would give grace to Onesimus and overlook the fact that he ran away? And as regards the money, now I understand it's not fun to be stolen from, and that needs to be made right. Of course, slaves don't earn money. They get food, they get shelter, but they don't get any money. So how's Onesimus going to ever pay this back? Paul says, not to worry, I'm going to pay you back. Ain't it something? So this speaks well of Paul, and in a way is reminiscent of some other. You know, there's a precedent in this, in that actually maybe Paul got the idea from Yeshua, because Paul's a follower of Yeshua, and maybe it occurred to Paul that, gee, Paul, I didn't know, I was the chief of sinners, and I really was owing to God, and God overlooked my deficiencies, and so on and so forth. And that actually, isn't that what Yeshua did? That Yeshua said, I'll pay. My, what a grand thing. Pay somebody else's indebtedness, where somebody else was owing, for somebody to step up to the line and pay. So we've got today credit cards, and how many people are coming forward to say, well, you know what, as regards your credit card, give it to me, I'll pay it. Huh? What kind of a deal is this? So, but let's focus on this as kind of a similar kind of thing as to what actually took place with Yeshua, because he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So this is part of the way. This is the way we do it as believers. Huh? And so Paul does it. So Yeshua does it. Paul follows. And you know, maybe there's some lessons in it for us. Let's think about, from Yeshua's point of view. I mean, isn't this kind of similar to the situation that mankind was in? Mankind is created as this very complex, favorable association of atoms and molecules and cells, and very differentiated cells. Some are bones, and some are muscle, and some actually form and make organs, and so on. And then there's the complexity of the human mind. I mean, that little ball of mush actually can think of thoughts. How would you go figure that this pile of mush, soft tissue, could actually think thoughts, think philosophical thoughts? I mean, and then there's all the complexities of how we're made, and so on and so forth. And then there's, you would think that Adam and Eve would be able to say to themselves, wow, will you look at this? Wow, look at, I mean, what a marvelous thing. And I'm here, and there's this whole garden, and the fruits and the vegetables and so on and so forth. Everything's provided for me, and we're in touch with our Father and so on. What a great thing. Thank you, Father. They never knew anything any different, right? But what happens is you know, being naive, never having been insulated with anything that would fight off the malady and disease of sin and doubt and temptation, they fell. And they committed a crime against God. What was the crime? Everybody says, well, that was sex. Well, I don't know that it was sex. All right? What it was, I think the crime was in believing the serpent. That was the crime. Okay? Because God had never done anything to them. God had never done anything that would cause them to, in some way, not trust God. He had shown himself to be completely trustworthy and had done this magnificent thing, made this great creation, and made them overseers over all of creation. God had done nothing wrong to them and had only blessed them. And now comes this serpent who comes along and says, psst, he's lying to you. Yeah, that's not the truth. He just doesn't want you to be equal with them. Okay? But you can be. And so when they began to, in their naivete, they fell in with it. And now that was a crime against God, and they could no longer inherit heaven because heaven can only take pure good things. There will not be the slightest ounce of anything negatory in heaven. So, there's the crime. And with the crime, there's an unfortunate penalty. Does God enjoy having this penalty? No. God is just. If he's, to be God is to be just. And unfortunately, the justice means that if Adam and Eve committed a crime, there has to be a penalty. There is a law of the universe. It is the law of the universe, the law of sowing and reaping, as I have said many times. That's the comprehensive law. I suppose there are 613 examples in the Bible, or 10 big ones from Mount Sinai, but they're all just examples of the more pervasive law. So we have the crime, and now Adam and Eve are owing in the situation. And how are they going to repay? Well, they don't have the righteousness with which to repay. They're kind of stuck in the mud. They're stuck in the mud. And so what is God going to do about this? Is he going to be overruled? Is he going to be overruled by the serpent? The serpent says, ha, they're mine now. They have fallen into my clutches. I got them, and they can't get out. And God says, oh, how bad that I was overruled. God cannot afford to be overruled even a single time. How could we ever trust him again? So now God sets about to set this straight. But he's in no hurry. On the seventh day, God rested. He says to the serpent, knock yourself out. Every single thing you're going to do is going to be towards my objectives, which is the restoration of mankind. So God, methodically, piece by piece, sets about to outsmart the serpent. So, but how is that going to happen? Well, how can mankind ever get restored? I mean, it would be so, God could say, presto changeo, it's cured. But you know what would happen is mankind would fall again. I mean, there's a predisposition. Hey, I fell and it was done, and so on. So, the serpent would come again, tell them some more lies, and they'd fall again. That's no good. So God, the great chess player of all of the universe, he sets about a different, slower, more methodical plan. And when we look at the expanse of things, first God finds himself somebody who's really ready to believe him and stand with him. Such a man was Abram. Right. And Sarah, she had to have faith too to go along with this whole show. So he goes about and he begins to fashion things towards his long-range solution. His long-range solution is he's going to create circumstances, move the pieces on the chessboard, and record them. And the recording is going to be not in a year or 2 or 5 or 100 years or 1,000 years, but over a very long period of time. And then his plan becomes, he lets out a little more information, clues for those who are eager to follow the clues, that there's going to be a special situation, there's going to be a special individual who is the key to solving the whole problem towards the restoration of mankind. Well, he sets about to do it through very small things the big things of history, you know, they hinge on very small things. God gets more glory when things hinge on unlikely and small events. Well, the most unlikely people probably that could ever be the instrument are the Jewish people. Because we got us, you know, maybe we're a little too proud that Abraham is our father. And but so he takes this microcosmic people and he he says, now through this people, through this small people, I'm concerned about all of mankind. I mean, there's now getting to be hundreds of thousands, even millions of them, and I'm concerned about all of them. And how can I cure it for all of them? I'm going to do it through my son. You know what? I'm going to create prophecies so they'll know who is this special individual, that there's going to be a special situation through whom I'm going to restore Israel. And by restoring Israel, because I'm going to demonstrate my opinions, the rest of the world is going to look at what I did with this small microcosmic people in some small corner of the Middle East, and they're going to see the drama of the story, and they're going to get it. And over a long period of time. And now what happens is the world at large, yes, of course, communications are going to have to be enlarged. There's going to have to be television and radio and satellites in heaven and so on and so on. But every single person's going to understand what happened. So that has to be the great communications, great knowledge to and fro, and so on. So that's got to be. But God's got this long-term plan because he is not going to be overruled by the serpent. Amen. So he's on with his plan. Now the next step is we're going to have prophecies. And lo and behold, you know what? They can't pay. They can't pay, and I'm concerned about them. And I hate the idea that they are so caught under the thumb of this serpent. He tricked them. They were gullible. They were naive. And they've been suffering, and I hate to see the suffering. And because they're suffering, they're so unsatisfied that they go out and try to salve their dissatisfaction, salve their sense of wickedness, but to do that which is pleasing, and it confuses the mind. I need relief. I need relief from my difficulties. So we wax worse and worse over a long period of time. All right? But the reverse is true too. As we will be able to overlook somebody else's crime against us, all right, then we will be going and setting mankind further in the direction of recovering from our aggregate difficulty. So Yeshua comes, takes, and says, I will pay the price. I, the Father, will become the Son. I will show them what it is. I will become the human being who will overcome Satan. I will overcome the serpent. I will be fully a human being, and I will be faced with the challenge of having the serpent whispering in my ear, and I will be tempted, but I will overcome the temptation. And in overcoming the temptation, I will not succumb to doing something wrong. I will not succumb. I refuse to succumb to the temptation. I refuse to allow it to affect me, and they may hurt my feelings. They may hurt me physically, but I am not giving in. I, God, now in the form of human flesh, am going to be the first human being who's going to overcome Satan, the serpent. Imagine, the first time the serpent is going to be overcome. That has never happened before. He showed his colors with Adam and Eve. He wound up victorious. But now we have a human being. Okay? He has the Spirit of God the Father. He is God the Father, and he sets about the task that I will overcome that serpent. I will show the serpent who's really boss. And you can do to me, a human being, what you want, but I will not be overcome. You can come with all your strength. You can come with all your power, but you will not overcome me. I will prove to the world and to the universe at large that my concern for my noble creation, mankind, is of such strength that you can do whatever you want to me, but all you can do is kill and torture me. But it will come to an end. And when it comes to the end, I will have achieved something. I will have overcome the negative angel, the powerful force of all of your minions, and I will have accomplished that. I will have accomplished that on behalf of other people. I will come and pay their penalty. I am a righteous God, and I will not be overdone. And I will show the world and all their progeny that I am who I say I am, and that I am a righteous God, and that I am wanting. I am wanting them to come and be with me as originally created. And so what he does is he comes down, and they tear him to shreds. They literally tear him to shreds. And they insult him, and they make everything the devil could think to do. Destroy his reputation, destroy his body, destroy everything that there could be for a human being. And he got cut off pretty early in life. And so he takes the penalty, do others. Boy, that's a good example. That's a real example of grace. Huh? And in the end he says, Father, forgive them. They just don't know what they're doing. Huh? And so Paul has this example. Now let's fast forward to the end of the story. We're not the end of the story. The end of the story is not the crucifixion, okay? Even the resurrection is not the end of the story. You remember that we're in 10 days of awe and repentance between the Feast of Trumpets and Yom Kippur. 10 days. You know, first we had Passover and first fruits, and then later in the season we had the Shavuot, Pentecost, and then there's this long time, and then there's the blowing of the trumpets, and on Tuesday night we went over the story about the blowing of the trumpets and what it means. But then there's 10 days. A day is unto the Lord, 1,000 years is unto a day, and so on and so forth. You know, I think that 10 days is reminiscent of the millennium. Okay? So mankind finally does get restored. Huh? That's going to happen. The devil's, his perimeter went from the third heaven down to being the prince of the air, the sky, down to the prince of the air, and he's coming down to human beings onto the face of the earth to sit on the throne that he's so coveted. And his perimeter is shrinking, and that's only temporary. He's going down under the earth. And when that happens, and vestiges of him are altogether gone, there's going to be 1,000 years where sin will not abound, sin will not be present, and that's going to be a whole different kind of existence, where mankind is going to be in a process of restoration. There won't be any new input to fester, and so on. And now mankind is fully restored at the end of a 1,000-year millennium. We don't think about that much. We just get me to the millennium. Get me to the millennium on time. but there is an end. And the resurrection is not the end. There is a 1,000-year millennium. At the end of the 1,000-year millennium, mankind is fully restored. Mankind is back in the shape that he originally was in. He doesn't go about sinning. He's so much involved with the Lord that he doesn't have that the urge to sin has been buried under the earth for 1,000 years. That urge has been submerged. So the urge has not been there. The urge to sin has not been there for 1,000 years. And so up comes the devil again. And he says, yeah, they're really pretty naive. I think I can make a comeback. And so he does try. He is going to make a try. Because he sees, now they're back. Hey, I remember these guys. Back when, like in the Garden of Eden, they're very susceptible. You know? And so he makes a try for it. There's just one thing, a very important thing. We have been immunized. We now know the story. We're not gullible and naive like we were in the first instance. No, we now have a whole biblical story behind us. We see with perspective the entire train of events over a period of thousands of years how we really did try to be righteous. And boy, did we give it a really good try. We tried everything. We said everything. We davened, and we did this, and we did that, and we sacrificed, and so on. And we tried, and we created our own laws, and so on. And it didn't work. We tried so very hard to be righteous, and it didn't work. And so we didn't make it. And now we come to the end of the story, and the serpent comes back and says, "Yoo-hoo, I'm back. I'm back." All right? And really, you know, whatever he's going to tempt us with whatever story he's going to come up with, we will have had this 7,000-year experience whereby we will say, "Oh no, we know better now. You cannot do it." And now it's not just a matter of Yeshua overcoming the devil. All the people alive will be able to face this temptation. Huh? And they will each individually say, I'm not buying it this time. You fooled me once. I'm not going to be fooled again. I remember my Bible. I've been learning my Bible for 1,000 years, and I know about you, and I know what you did in the first place. I know the whole history of you, and I'm not buying what what you're putting forward. And so now every human being will have overcome. It won't just be Yeshua who actually overcame, but mankind altogether will overcome. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess, everyone, every human being will be over the devil. Okay? And that's every human being alive on earth and every human being who's alive in heaven. And that's the whole story. That's a 7,000-year story compressed into about 20 minutes. But that's what's going on. The original crime and God getting his ducks in a row, laying all the groundwork for this eventual thing which he's been very patient about, getting it all set with the showing, hey, go ahead and try, knock yourself out, try to be righteous. It ain't going to work for you. And you can try all the other remedies. And you can try self-government, and you can try, you know, knowledge, head knowledge, and cerebral knowledge, and you can try drugs, you can try whatever it is, and you will come to the place where it's not going to work. And then I'm going to have prophecies and clues, and then I'm going to bring a Messiah, and then mankind is going to increasingly, my kingdom on earth is going to improve, and what's going to happen? It's going to enlarge to the point where the devil is put under our feet. And now what happens is 1,000 years, we're in heavenly places, and for 1,000 years, mankind is waxing better and better, more and more on its way back to its original pure condition. Okay? And along comes the guy trying to make a comeback, but this time, there's a difference. We have been raised in stature in the eternal and universal places. We have higher standing than we did as Adam and Eve. Oh no, we're not the same naive, gullible people we used to be. No. This time, we're immunized by the Bible. This time, we're not making that mistake again. This time we have a history to point to, and we have proof to point to, and we have archaeology to point to, and we have history to point to, and we have the Bible to point to, and we have all kinds of things to point to, and we say, I'm not going to be so dumb anymore. I'm not going to be so wise anymore. I am going to follow my God, and I am going to meet the challenge. I will not be like the first Adam, okay? I will overcome you. And so the people who are alive then are going to say, I will overcome. I'm strong enough now because I fellowship with the Lord. I will overcome you. And so mankind does overcome the devil. It's a long 7,000-year history, and we're most of the way through, but there's still ways to go. Okay? But this is the story of where we fit in the long saga. Okay? Now, before we get to that 1,000 years, we got some heavy lifting to do. Okay? Because there's a crucial time coming. The crucial time coming is there's great deception. How can it be that the anti-Messiah is actually going to sit on a throne in Jerusalem? It's going to have to be a lot of people that the devil's going to fool. Don't worry, you won't be fooled. It says, if it were possible for the elect to be deceived, it's not possible for you to be deceived. You have the Spirit of God as your built-in radar. And so now, there's going to be a great deception over the face of the entire earth. And we are beginning to see evidences of that great deception. We see that great deception on the news virtually every night. Amen. And we see that there are people who think themselves wise and are not. Who think themselves wise because they say to themselves, I am not one of those endarkened people. I am not one of those ignorant people that believes the Bible. I don't buy those myths. I don't buy those wrong things. I am believing the serpent, and the serpent told me I could become as a god, and I believe the serpent. So don't tell me. And by the way, this is getting me good ratings, so I'm going to be on the televisionary. Okay? And so I know what's best because I can feel it. I need more satisfaction. I know how to get it. I can get more satisfaction. I can become famous. I can become powerful. But I have a way. Listen to me, my audience. I can tell you how to get satisfaction. And they're on the news night, pounding everybody. You can get satisfaction. Just follow me, and I'm following the serpent, and that you can get satisfaction. You can get satisfaction. Try it out. You can, if you'll do this and you'll make enough money, you'll feel satisfied. If you'll get enough fame, you'll feel satisfied. If you can become more powerful, you'll feel satisfied. If you can take enough drugs or alcohol, you'll feel satisfied. Take my word for it. After all, I have good ratings, and so on and so forth. And so every night, every day, we're being pounded with the same thing. That we should throw in with it, that we shouldn't believe God. And the indoctrination is so very strong that we shouldn't believe God. We shouldn't believe the Bible. Those Bible people, that's Bible talk, that's church talk. We're not going to be taken in by church talk. No, we are the enlightened people who don't believe the Bible. And so on and so forth. Does that sound like a serpent or what? It's saying don't believe God. Believe me, that's what the serpent said. And so we go on, and we're facing that great deception. That great deception that took place in the Garden of Eden is once again upon us, where the serpent is coming into our garden, and he is saying to us as a society, or as the world at large, he is saying, don't believe him, believe me. You can become as gods. You can get your satisfaction. Let me show you how to get the satisfaction. And the world is buying it. But there are some who are not buying it. And we are among those numbers. Hallelujah. I'm telling you. You see, in the ultimate, they may have the means of communication. They may have the means of attempting to persuade people. And don't you read the Bible? Do you want to be an ignorant person like them? Huh? You need to get education. You need to listen to me. I am here with my program, and I can tell you that I have. You realize how much education I have, how many degrees I have, and they don't have any. They don't have any. They just have their Bible. And we come along toting our Bible and say, I'm here, I got my scriptures, that's all I need. I have the wisdom of the ages. What do I need with a master's degree? I got the wisdom of the ages. And so on. And so we become equipped. So the serpent comes into our life and continues to lie to us. He continues to say, follow me and get your satisfaction. I promise you, if you'll take drugs just one more time, you can be satisfied. Huh? Just that one drink, and you can feel satisfied. No, you won't. We all know that the one drink, you don't want one drink, you want 10. Huh? And I don't want that one bowl of popcorn, because after that I want ice cream, and then after that, and there's no end of it until I finally stuff myself. Okay? So, the devil comes into our garden in a variety of ways to play upon our weaknesses. Okay? And you know what? He has the upper hand. We were subordinated to him in Adam. However, we do not have to belong to the first family, the first Adam. Oh no. We are the family of the second Adam. When we're in the second Adam, okay, we are in the faith race. We have attained a higher level, and when we bury ourselves in the Scriptures, we bury ourselves in Him, in the Messiah, when we focus on those things, okay, then we are no longer subordinated to the adversary, the devil, the serpent. We're no longer, when we are in that place, when we are in the Spirit of God, we are no longer subordinated. We are no longer under His thumb. We don't think in terms of my lack of satisfaction. We don't think of what I have to do. All of those lousy negative thoughts, all the thoughts of hatred and covetousness and jealousy and all the negativity goes from us. That's it, is we don't have to remain in our situation along with the first Adam. No, we can rise above it, and we do rise above it. We rise above it in these services and other services where God is glorified. When we hide ourselves in the things of the Lord, we are now with the second Adam, okay? A new kind of human being that has overcome the devil. And so we have a bodyguard. And the bodyguard says, come with me. Follow me. And we do. And when trouble comes, we just say, I'm following, but I don't understand. It's okay. He's with me. Don't bother him. He's with me. The bully comes, and we say, bodyguard, you're supposed to be helping me. Yeah, my son, I'm going to help you. Don't I always help you? It doesn't seem to me like you're helping me. Don't worry. Trust me. It's under control. I got it. I got it. I see what's going on. You know, he's not going to win. But trust me, I have a different way of winning. Okay. Okay. I'm going to do what you say. I'm going along with it. I'm going to show you. Do you trust me? Yeah, I trust you. That's all that counts. That's it. So we're going to jointly overcome him. And by the way, kiddo, what a nice thing that you've joined up my army. That you are one of those who's going to fight the devil, the serpent, along with me. That's just great stuff. I appreciate it. That's the stuff of friendship. You know, Abraham was my friend because he believed me. So it is. I see that you believe me too. And I count you as my friend. Would I let a friend turn out to not be victorious against this imp? Huh? El Stupido, he defied me, and he continues to defy me. Huh? But he's losing. He's losing all the time. His perimeter's shrinking all the time. He keeps losing and losing and doubling down and doubling down. Can't you see that he's really losing? That the increase of my kingdom, God says, there shall be no end. And so we're in on the winning ticket. Praise the Lord. I think the story of Onesimus and Philemon is a good story. It shows God's heart as a parent is to pay the price for all of us. And you know something? Paul seemed to pay the price for somebody else's crime, and God decided he was going to pay the price to us. And we are all due a bad price. Huh? If Adam just did this one thing, look at all the things we did. And still, God cared enough for us to reveal himself to us. That's amazing. If you don't think that that's supernatural surgery, go explain it to somebody else. And when you see that blank stare, you'll realize, yet again, that it is a true miracle for somebody to have the blindness removed from their eyes and to realize what God has done, what God is doing, and what God's going to do. Let's close in a word of prayer.